Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. Okay, I guess we'll start off with the Chase and Michael conversation because, there's a couple of different ways we could sit there and look at that conversation. And honestly, to tell you the truth, it would have been so much more easier the minute that Chase brought up Willow after Smith is saying, yeah, I saw Willow last night, and Michael was like, yeah, I'm gonna stop you right there. We're not having this conversation. Because he already knew that Chase was going to sit there and start defending Willow, defending her actions, pushing for Willow to sit there and see the kids and everything like that. And the first thing that he said to sit there and at least open the conversation, at least open the door, he was like, you owe me that much after blowing up my marriage. Now, let's be honest, he did actually do that, right? Yeah, we can all sit there and look at what Drew did to Michael as far as blowing up his relationship. And yes, I understand it does take two, right? It wasn't just Drew, it was Willow as well. But it wasn't just Willow that blew up her marriage with Chase, it was also Michael that helped. People tend to sit there and forget that, but that's the reality of the situation. So he was like, listen, on that level, fine. And of course, Chase pleads her case, and it's like, listen, she's made bad choices, she's made bad decisions, but she's a good mother, da 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 da, and this, that, and the third. And of course, Michael's like, she's hurting the children. She lost custody of the kids because she put her needs and Drew's needs ahead of the children. Hell, I mean, honestly, to tell you the truth, he didn't even have to go through all that. All he had to sit there and do was talk about when she went to barge in Carly's place to sit there and try to see her kids looking like the Wicked Witch of the West with her makeup running down her face, scaring the damn child. But of course, he tried to play the stuff that she did down, say that she's a good mother, and that he shouldn't be sitting there punishing her. And the truth of the matter is, Michael's like, you don't know the whole story. His theory, it's true, but his theory about Willow terrorizing Sasha's baby. Of course, to Chase, he doesn't know that. I think if he knew that, then that whole sticking up for Willow would have probably been null and void. But all he says is, yeah, I may not know the whole story, but I know she's a good mother. That's it. That's essentially what he says. Um, and on some level, listen, I get it from Chase's perspective, right? On some level, because like he said, that is his friend. He's gonna want to sit there and stick up for her. He can sit there and see her being in pain and everything like that. Yes, it's very easy to sit there and dismiss him and be like he doesn't know the whole story, and as the viewers we can sit there and be like, bro, you're out of pocket. But I can recognize his point of view. Yes, at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like, bro, listen, this is between Willow and Michael. And you trying to chime in and you snip this thing up, well, he's being unfair, and bro, mind your goddamn business. Yes, it's very simple to sit there and say that. We can all sit there and say that. But I guess, this is just a me thing. I can see Chase's point of view as well. So they have their whole deception meeting. Kristen Storms is back, apparently. I thought she was going to be back much later, unless I don't know how far these things are taped. But anyway, she's back. And they have their meeting, and Maxie wants to sit there and come forward to the police about Sonny's dirty money, and Tracy's like it's a bad idea, lays out pretty much for the most part what Marcus said and why they shouldn't do it, and how it would freeze their assets and it can take a while and they may get in trouble and they may lose everything, and it's been too long. I don't know if she mentioned that part, but that part is also very important. And also, yeah, Maxie's like, we could sit there and convince them that we weren't in on it. We didn't sit there and try to do that. And Tracy's like, what if we can't? So they put it to a vote, and pretty much everyone votes to sit there, and Lucy's there, and everyone votes to sit there and keep their mouth quiet except for Maxie, which is really interesting because, let's be honest, if they decide to go to the cops and the company gets shut down, whatever it is, right? At the end of the day, Brooklyn and Tracy are still going to be able to support their family. They're rich. Maxie, on the other hand, has three children, right? And she already had to sit there and get bailed out by her parents and Spinelli just staying there. So I'm kind of just more like, I'm surprised there's not a bit of self preservation as far as like, yeah, I understand that we should do the right thing, but if this is going to freeze our assets in the company and we'll lose the company, like she said, she got three kids. She just got that place. Maybe it's probably not a good idea. So I'm a little surprised she was a little bit more gun ho about doing the right thing. I mean, I get it. Her stepdad is the police commissioner. It's like she was kind of raised to do the right thing, even though for the most part, her being a teenager, she was more very rebellious. But I'm more surprised that she took that stance. Um, I don't know what they're doing with Sunny and Justine. See, Justine was taken to jail by Sunny. She twisted her ankle off screen playing baseball, whatever, right? So he wants to sit there and help her out. He wants to wait with her. There's a point where Willow comes up. And Sunny's like, can we get another nurse? And I'm like, Sunny, are you the one that's actually going to be getting treated? Because if you're not, I don't understand why you're requesting another nurse. I mean, yeah, he sits there and says to Justine later on, seeing how my son and her are in conflict, I just don't think it's a good idea. And I'm like, that's cool if you were the one that were being treated. So I don't really understand that. I mean, I think it was more of the fact that like Isaiah needed to know by Willow that Drew was the one that was blackmailing Portia. Because now he has an understanding of why she's quitting. She never said why she was quitting. She was just like, I gotta quit for reasons that I'm not gonna tell you. And they had to sit there and have a whole conversation. But to be honest, I just felt like it was like dumb. Like I get you don't like her, you may not have reasons to rock with her, but you're not the one that has the twisted ankle, so I don't get it. Um, and Sonny just being there for her. Now the reason I'm sitting there saying I don't know what they're doing with Sonny and Justine, because I don't know if it's supposed to make him seem a little more sympathetic towards Justine. Um, him helping her out, him even waiting when she said you can go, I'm gonna get a ride share, and he's still there with a wheelchair, ready to, take her home. There's a point where he like psychoanalyzes her. I found that to be pretty interesting. Um, and again, I guess Justine was also supposed to see that Sonny is a very complicated man, right? Like, he's showing a bit of compassion towards Willow, even though that, what she did to Michael. It's like, wow, that's really big of you. Also, she was a little surprised that, like, the court stripped the mother away all rights from the kids. It's not something that the, the legal system usually do, you know, which I've always found that to be very hella biased, right? Like the mothers are usually favored by the courts. That's that is unacceptable. That is one that's unacceptable. I know Lulu was something talking about, well, this is unacceptable. No, no, no. That is unacceptable. Now, Lulu goes to Carly and it's like, I need you to help me run Lee's out of town. And Carly's like, I don't know about that. And of course, it's because Jason has a soft spot for Liesel, and she doesn't want to get in a conflict with Jason, regardless of whatever the reason is. No means no. Why sit there and pressure her? Well, of course, because Lulu got to get what Lulu wants, right? And in this conversation, she does come across as pretty insufferable, right? Like essentially, she's like, I don't want Rocco Liesel filling Rocco's head with lies about Ulbrich. I mean, about Britt. Even though Carla's like, she wasn't just one thing. She didn't just have one layer. Yeah, she did some bad stuff, but she also did some good stuff. You know, but that's the thing about Brit. I mean, that's the thing about Lulu. Lulu is the type of person that once you cross her, once you do something, one thing wrong, apparently everything is like she holds a grudge like there's no tomorrow. And there's no room for forgiveness, but there's also apparently no room for growth. And that's the part that just annoys me, right? Um, what else? But then, Lou, what it also comes down to is a level of insecurity, right? She talks about how she missed the first couple of months um, with Rocco, and Britt raised him, maybe even nursed him, and what she doesn't want to happen is she doesn't want um, Rocco to feel like Britt is also his mother, right? She's like, well, that's unacceptable, right? And I'm kind of just like, I, I don't know how to feel about that because I was gonna sit there and say some cold shit, but then I'm like, listen, I get it. Everyone has a certain level of insecurities, right? But I feel like her insecurities is going to ultimately push her son away from her, you know. And that's what Carly's like. Carly's like, you need to be very careful because if you're not, you're gonna want to push your son further away. There was other things too that I can't think about off the top of my head, and I probably want to talk about it tonight's stream. But that's the general gist of that scene. Now, it was laughable in the beginning where with Laura and Dante, because Laura's like, listen, I brought you in here because I want to ask you, do you think that Sonny kidnapped Marco? And I'm kind of just like, I just hate that buzzing sound. It's so goddamn annoying. It's like I don't feel like getting up. And Dante's like, well, listen, Marco at the end of the day, he said that he didn't get kidnapped or whatever. And she pretty much just, he pretty much like, do you want to open up an investigation? And I'm kind of just like, why are we sitting there talking about this hypotheticalness if he did it or if he didn't do it? Because ultimately, Laura, you're biased when it comes to a Sunny. You are straight up biased when it comes to a Sunny, and Dante, you are too. So to sit there and be like, are we gonna sit there and press charges? Are we gonna do anything about Sunny? I don't know. I mean, Marco, didn't Marco said that he didn't do it. So I'm just like, first of all, it's kind of a non-conversation because Marco already claimed both times that he did not get kidnapped by Sonny. So why are we even having this conversation? Is what I'm generally saying. And the fact that is like you have the son of a mobster and a friend of a mobster, and they both are a cop and a mayor, and it's like there's just so much bias in this conversation that it's just laughable, right? So you go from that, and they talk about Lulu and how she's dealing with Rocco and Liesel and everything like that, and ultimately Dante's like, listen, I was livid just like Lulu, but ultimately Britt isn't alive. If you want to sit there and know more about Britt, I don't think it's so bad. But Lulu, on the other hand, it's just going to be tough as nails. And during after Coffee Corinthos whatever won with Jason and Rocco and Danny and Liesel's like, let's go off of ice cream, right? And Jason's like, listen, we're not going anywhere until you like pick up your equipment and stuff, just to kind of get the boys away, and ultimately be like, one, you need to sit there and start respecting Dante and Lulu's boundaries. Two, which is mostly important, asking him for ice cream and stuff like that, you're putting Rocco in a very difficult position because if he hangs out with you, then he's defying his parents. And if he chooses not to hang out with you because of his parents, then he feels bad for essentially not spending time with you or rejecting you. He's either rejecting you or he's defying his parents. And it's like, that's not cool. And another thing is, essentially, Jason's like, if you're going to talk about Brit, you need to start whitewashing some of the stuff that she did. Um, Tell the whole truth. Even though Liesel's like, oh, I don't want to badmouth my daughter, Jason's like, listen, Brit never really cared about what people thought. She would respect that, she would honor that, and most importantly, it would establish more trust with, um, with Rocco. And Danny Smith did telling Rocco ultimately, like, I know that you're kind of stuck in the middle. You don't want to defy your parents, but you also want to sit there and get to know Brit. And ultimately, Danny's like, listen, if this is what you want to do, it's your life. You get to sit there and decide on how you want to handle it. If you want more information, you should sit there and do it. To hell with your parents, because that's how Jason is, and Danny's kind of a somewhat reflection of him. So of course, he would sit there and say that. And why? Oh, if I sit there and say this is Phyllis. Yes, that's right. I sit there and I look at the scenes with Justine and Sonny, and it's like, are we gonna sit there and try to do this whole Sonny is flirting with Justine, trying to seduce her, or whatever the case is? Like, are we doing that? Because in the beginning, I understood. Well, in the beginning, I didn't understand why he was not this, like, going down to the police station and not having a lawyer and this, that, and the third. But then yesterday, it made sense. I just don't know what they're doing. I don't know anything about chemistry. I know people sit there and talk about chem tests and stuff. I don't know if they're doing that. I have no idea. But it seems like they're doing more than just Sonny's that you're trying to set um, Justina for looking, biased if she was to sit there and prosecute him. It seems like it's more than just that. Wow, I think I'm done. Wow, and only 17 minutes. God damn. Now, I feel like that's pretty much about it, ultimately. But if you got anything, write in the comment section below. Come to the live stream tonight. We'll sit there and talk about all that. Usual time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and I'll see you in the next video.